Let's go Dolphins! Something very strange is happening in Miami, and no, it's not just a loss to the Colts. There are decisions being made behind the scenes that will leave any fan scratching their heads. Injuries, controversial substitutions, and a less than encouraging atmosphere in the locker room. And the worst part? No one is telling the truth about this, but I'll tell you everything. But before you continue, hit the like button if you're a true Miami Dolphins fan. And if you can't wait for the team to make the necessary changes, comment like this: Go Dolphins! We need competent people. Now, let's get into the chaos. It starts right in the trenches, where Miami is facing the worst-case scenario. Your starting right guard and right tackle are down. James Daniels and Austin Jackson, two guys Miami was absolutely depending on to protect Tua Tagovailoa, are both out. Daniels has a pec injury and has already been ruled out for week 2. He's week to week, but with a short turnaround before facing Buffalo in week 3, odds are he won't be available until at least week 4 against the Jets. Even more frustrating, he entered week 1 with an ankle issue and then hurt his pec in the first quarter. Two completely different injuries. That's not just bad luck, it's a red flag for the Dolphins training and medical staff. Daniels only played 3 snaps. His replacement, Kean Smith, was immediately thrown into the fire, and while PFF handed him a mediocre 52.0 grade, he allowed just 1 pressure across 44 snaps. In all honesty, the grading seemed overly harsh. Mike McDaniel himself pointed out that while Smith wasn't perfect, he wasn't a disaster either. But here's the thing, Kean Smith should not be your week-in, week-out starter. He's not the reason the offense struggled. That blame lies more with the quarterback play and questionable play calling, but he's still not the long-term answer. Then we've got Austin Jackson, who left the game in the second half. The injury? That same nagging toe that kept him out of the preseason and multiple weeks of training camp. The team hasn't given a concrete update, and honestly, that's a problem. Jackson tried to come back, and now the injury might be worse or re-aggravated. We're either looking at a recurring issue or one that's going to require serious rest, maybe even shutting him down altogether. So now Miami is staring down the barrel of starting Larry Borom and Kean Smith as the right side of the offensive line to protect Tua's blind side. That's not just a gamble, it's borderline reckless. Let's not forget that the offensive line was a glaring concern all throughout training camp and the preseason, particularly the second and third units. With Andrew Meyer and Liam Eichenberg both on IR until at least week 5, depth is not just thin, it's almost non-existent. We're barely into September, and Miami is scraping the bottom of the depth chart. Tell me that doesn't scare you. Switching to the defense, things somehow get even worse. Storm Duck, yes, the guy that entered as CB1, which is shocking enough, was awful in week 1, and now he's out for multiple weeks with an ankle injury. But let's be honest, even if he were healthy, after giving up nearly 80 yards and a touchdown with a perfect QB rating allowed, it's hard to imagine fans feeling good about him starting again anytime soon. Tyler Warren, Adonai Mitchell, Michael Pittman Jr., they all exposed Duck. That 27-yard TD Pittman scored? That was on Duck blowing the coverage. It was ugly, and the fact that a second-year undrafted player was your top corner says more about the Dolphins' roster-building failure than anything else. Now without Duck and with Ethan Bonner still nursing a hamstring, Miami's cornerback room is a mess. Rasul Douglas is likely to step in. He replaced Duck on Sunday, but fans should keep their eyes on Juju Brents. The 6 feet 3 inches third-year corner out of Kansas State, picked up after the Colts cut him, has the physical tools and aggressive style to make an impact. If the veteran solution doesn't hold, the Dolphins may have no choice but to give Brents a shot. It's already desperate times. And the defensive line? Also under siege. Benito Jones suffered an oblique injury and is week to week. McDaniel hasn't ruled him out, but don't bet on seeing him against the Patriots. That means we're going to see more of rookie Kenneth Grant, who had 44 snaps in week 1, the second most on the D-line behind Zach Sealer. And let's not pretend anyone on that line looked dominant. The pass rush was inconsistent, the rotations odd, and rookie deployment, especially guys like Matthew Butler and the alignment choices, felt like over-engineering. Miami has a lot of young talent here, but no one stood out, and that's alarming considering the Colts scored on every possession. And then there's Darren Waller. This one's just depressing. McDaniel says he's trying to play in week 2, but if we're being honest, he might retire again before ever suiting up. Waller's status is completely up in the air, and while he wouldn't solve everything, his absence only adds another layer of concern to a team already reeling. So that's where we stand, Dolphins fans. Week 2 is right around the corner, and this team is already being held together by duct tape. It's hard not to question the front office, the injury management, and the depth decisions. We're in survival mode just one game into the season. How are you feeling about the offensive line and secondary heading into week 2? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because I'll be back with more in part 2. Let me know when you're ready. And let's be real, if you're not already panicking, you're probably not paying attention, because the ripple effects of these injuries are already being felt in every corner of the Dolphins locker room. When your offensive line is scrambling, your quarterback's clock speeds up. Tua Tagovailoa doesn't have the time he needs to operate within the timing-based rhythm that Mike McDaniel's offense depends on. And when that timing breaks down, so does the entire offensive identity. This isn't just about Kean Smith or Larry Borom stepping in. This is about what it does to the entire offensive scheme. Without solid pass protection, Miami can't stretch the field with guys like Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. They can't develop long developing routes. The RPO game collapses. And more importantly, the running game can't get any traction, which means defenses can sit back and force Tua to beat them under pressure. We saw it against the Colts, and you better believe Bill Belichick is taking notes for Sunday. And while we're here, let's talk about the coaching. Mike McDaniel is known for his offensive creativity, but at what point does that creativity turn into chaos when you don't have the personnel to execute it? There's no doubt McDaniel is a smart guy, but week one exposed a tendency to overthink, especially when your trenches are falling apart. You can't script your way around bad O-line play forever. Eventually, the game becomes a battle of matchups and depth, and right now, the Dolphins are losing both. Defensively, it's just as concerning. The decision to blitz aggressively and drop key pass rushers like Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb into coverage felt like a classic case of trying to be the smartest guy in the room. And it backfired. Anthony Weaver may have wanted to get exotic with his pressure packages, but when the basic fundamentals are failing, missed tackles, blown coverages, bad alignments, you don't have the luxury of scheming complex disguises. You need to simplify and let your best players do what they do best, attack. And what are we doing with the secondary? Seriously, Rasul Douglas should absolutely get the nod this Sunday based on experience, but if he struggles early, Juju Brents needs to get thrown into the fire. There's no point in delaying the inevitable. Miami already saw what happened when they waited too long to pull Storm Duck. If this team wants to salvage something from the early season, they need to make aggressive decisions, not just in their schemes, but in personnel. The same goes for the defensive front. Kenneth Grant is your first-round pick. He needs to be treated like one. Get him as many reps as possible and let him develop by trial. That's the only path forward. With Benito Jones likely out and Zeke Biggers inactive in week one, you have to trust the young guys. Let the rookies play. You drafted them for a reason. The same energy needs to apply to guys like Chop Robinson and even Matthew Butler, who saw some reps but didn't look nearly as comfortable on the edge as expected. If the defensive line doesn't get better pressure on Mac Jones this weekend, it's going to be another long day. Let's not sugarcoat this. The Dolphins were embarrassed by a Colts team that had no business running up and down the field on them like that. And even though the scoreboard doesn't show a blowout, the film tells a different story. The defense was on its heels all game. 7 possessions, 7 scores, until a penalty gave the Colts a fresh set of downs after what could have been the Dolphins' lone stop. And remember, this wasn't Patrick Mahomes doing this. This was Daniel Jones. Let that sink in. Now, the tight end situation might seem like a side note in all of this, but it's actually emblematic of a larger issue. Darren Waller was brought in to be a weapon in this offense, and it already looks like a busted move. Whether he plays Sunday or not, he's unreliable, and that's the bigger problem. This team cannot continue investing in players who are either injury-prone or already breaking down. We've seen this pattern for years, taking chances on big names with medical red flags. It's a gamble that almost never pays off, and yet Chris Greer keeps rolling the dice. And that brings us back to the root of the problem. The roster construction, the depth issues.